In this episode of Explore Jacksonville, I interview National Park Ranger Emily at Fort Caroline National Memorial. Emily shares her expertise on the rich history of our national parks, including the origins of the name Timucuan, the best trails for bikers and hikers, and the diverse summer activities and kids programs available in Jacksonville, Florida. Join us as we uncover the beauty and community of Fort Caroline and other national parks in Jacksonville, like the Timucuan Ecological and Historic Preserve and Kingsley Plantation. Hi everyone, I'm Anna with Explore Jacksonville, and today we are here with Ranger Emily. She's been a ranger for 16 years here in Jacksonville, and we're going to learn a little bit about the national parks today. So, what would you like to start with, Emily?
Well, I just love the fact that there are national parks here in Jacksonville. Sometimes people don't even realize that we've got two: Fort Caroline National Memorial and Timucuan Ecological and Historic Preserve.
I'm glad you said Timucuan because I always pronounce it all different kinds of ways. Can you tell us where that name came from?
Well, it's a tough one because it's a name that's ascribed to a group of people. So the Timucua speaking people were members of different tribes that shared a language in this area. And when the French come, there's some confusion over what the group is called. And so you'll hear it Timucua speaking people, Timucuan Preserve, Timucuana. You'll hear a lot of different pronunciations
of how to pronounce
and we're not the pronunciation police. We're just happy that people are out here. I've been here for a while, so I'm becoming part of the history myself. So yeah.
And what I wanted to ask is, how can people find out more about these parks?
Oh gosh, there's lots of great ways to get in touch with your parks and learn more about them. So we like to be wherever people are talking. So we're on all the major social media networks. You can follow news about the park at #Timucuan Preserve. Really, the best place to go and find out about the park is our website, which is NPS, as in nationalparkservice.gov/Timu, Timu for Timucuan.
And did you mention to me earlier when I was talking to you something about hashtags?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of different hashtags that you can follow from our most popular sites. #Kingsley Plantation. If you want to learn more about Fort Caroline or see where people are visiting, #Fort Caroline. Theodore Roosevelt area is one of our popular spots. Or if you just want to learn more about national parks and going out and seeing them or volunteering in them, #VIP program, #plan like a park ranger. And you can learn a little bit more and kind of plan your own adventure by following some of those great tags.
And also, when I first walked in here, you guys are always so helpful, even when you just walk up to a ranger, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to visit Fort Caroline, the first thing they should really do is visit the visitor center, right?
I think if you're going to a National Park Service site, the first place is hit up the visitor center. You're gonna hear other people's questions, and that's going to cue you to ask more, learn about a different part that you didn't know about. You're gonna get all the maps, you're gonna get all of the up-to-date information, and stuff that you didn't even know to ask.
Exactly. So you guys have how many park rangers that work here at the national parks? It's this here at Fort Caroline, and then at Timucuan.
So at any given day, there's going to be a couple of park rangers in the visitor center to answer your questions. Our staff is anywhere from 20 to 30 rangers, but really, if you want to find a park ranger across Northeast Florida, we've got Cumberland Island up in Georgia. We've got our site here, which is two parks, Timucuan Preserve and Fort Caroline. You can go down the road to St. Augustine and visit the folks at the Castillo de San Marcos or Fort Matanzas. So there's lots of different National Park Service sites where you can just find a ranger or go to a ranger program or talk.
Yeah, I was going to say, not many people, I don't think, really think about that, right? That they can actually go directly to the most knowledgeable source, which is the ranger, and ask all of your questions even before coming to the park, right? How can they get in touch with you?
So we have an email contact, we have phone numbers for the visitor center, and we have people just in the parks and in the communities. So we have outreach rangers who go to community events and festivals. I think Wild Amelia is going to be the next one we're at, but we're out there and we are happy to answer
people's questions.
Yeah, we love that. That's one of our favorite things to do.
I mean, she's answering all my questions whenever I come to visit the parks. We've shot a lot of content here, and she's already given me some great tips on what to see around here. It's getting hot here in Florida. What are some summer activities? How can you still enjoy our parks while it's been so hot right now in the summer?
Yeah, so we want to work with the environment. So we know that this time of year, it's not exactly the best time to plan a 3 p.m. hike out in Theodore Roosevelt area.
Way too hot for that.
No, it's hot. You're going to get caught by a thunderstorm. You know, work with what you've got. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, there are lots of our trails that are sunrise to sunset. So if you want to go out to Theodore Roosevelt area, consider doing a sunrise hike.
That's a great
You know,
idea.
that's not going to be as comfortable in January, but that's going to be an amazing experience. You're going to hear the cicadas, you're going to see the birds, and you're going to beat the heat.
Right.
So a sunrise hike out at Theodore Roosevelt is one way to still enjoy our trails, but we do shift our programming as the summer heat and temperatures roll up. So we do a lot more craft corners.
I'd love to hear more about what kid programs you have.
Yeah,
a lot of people want to know about that.
We do craft corners. We do Ranger Story Hour. So we do that in the visitor center with the air conditioning on.
Perfect.
And then we encourage them to become junior rangers. And so they can become junior rangers inside the buildings and touring the historic sites. They complete the booklet, they earn their badge, and they learn about the park on their level with a lot of activities. It's hands-on.
What age range, should I say, of kids usually can come out for these kinds of programs you have?
We are open to all. We love everyone. Now we have different requirements. So like there's, 8 and under are going to be doing different number of activities on the booklet.
Right.
The older kids are going to have a little more that they have to do. We want to challenge them, but really we want to engage everyone.
Right.
In fact, we even created a senior ranger program.
That's awesome.
So you can come out if you want a little bit more of a challenge. You fill out the senior ranger activity booklet. You get a different badge. We're even doing a senior ranger day in June where we're going to have tours of the museum, which is air conditioned.
That's
and we're
great.
going to have a bird observation platform, and we're going to sit down and watch the birds, let them come to us. And so we shift away from our hiking programming into things like our junior and senior ranger programming in the summertime.
In the summertime. Okay, great. That's good to know because like I said, it's been so hot. So I'm glad that there's still so many activities you can enjoy while it's been this hot here.
And we're a water park, our lazy river looks a little bit different from the lazy rivers you might find at most water parks. But getting out onto the water for some early morning fishing is always an option in the summertime. Getting out there and kayaking at sunset is another. So we've got a lot of boat launches and opportunity to just really engage with nature, and then occasionally, splash the person with you to cool off, because that's a necessity.
You mentioned to me earlier that you guys have recently had like a coloring program or something here with the kids.
Oh my gosh, we're doing lots of different things for our craft corners. So we do over at Kingsley Plantation, they just did a quilt activity where they talked about how enslaved people made quilts to tell stories and keep themselves warm and send messages. And then we wanted to engage kids and have them be part of that story. And so they made their own quilt squares and we put them together and made a quilt. Yeah, we did coloring activities. I think they made nature journals this last weekend. So we're trying to look at it and have kids explore in lots of different ways with a hand-on activity. At World Migratory Bird Day, I was making bug hotels with kids. So we were making habitat for bugs because if you want to have a healthy bird population, you need a lot of bugs around too. So we're talking about how it's all connected.
Things like this.
Yeah, so there's lots of different activities that we can do, and we try and switch it up. So we try and do lots of different things so that if you're a local, you can come back again and again and again. And one other thing that we do that's not necessarily on our calendar is when it's a beautiful day, we have pop-ups.
Okay.
So at any given time, at any given visit, there might be a volunteer or a ranger at a table doing a pop-up presentation on bird beaks and how they're adapted to different things, on an enviroscape and how what you put in your lawn actually eventually makes its way out into the marsh and into the environment. Or we have a great one on the USCTs out at Kingsley Plantation and their stories. And so we have a lot of kind of surprise programs. So you may come out just to visit on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday. And so we have scheduled programs, we have pop-up programs, we have engaging on social media and planning your visit on our app beforehand so that we are going to make the most out of your visit.
Exactly. Now, activities here in the parks, right? We have a lot of bikers, we have a lot of hikers. Let me ask you right off the bat, what are some of the good trails that you can recommend for a biker?
So biking is a little bit more limited. So, Theodore Roosevelt area is we're not known for our elevation here in Florida.
No, not at all.
And the St. John's Bluff does give some elevation, and it's a lot of roots and a lot of climbing up the midden, climbing up the bluff. So for Florida, again, I don't want to oversell this with my rangers. My ranger friends out at Rocky Mountains are going to laugh at me for calling this elevation.
No, that's true. It's a different kind of landscape.
It's not great for biking. So if you're going to go biking, maybe go out to Cedar Point when it hasn't been raining. It's going to be drier, it's going to be flatter, it's going to be a better location. But if you want to get, you're a hiker, you want to, practice for the Appalachian Trail or whatever you're going to do, Theodore Roosevelt's going to be a good option for you. But neither of those are really going to be great options at Hammock Trail, which has a little bit of a hill, but I think that is a 1 mile trail perfect for families.
Right.
So if you're going to be out here, you only have so long that the kids are going to be paying attention. It's a shorter trail. It's a loop. It's kind of easy.
Okay.
If you're really interested in an animal encounter, maybe not the best trail for you because it's used to seeing a lot of people on it. So yeah, there's the right trail for the right person in their adventure. Or, it could be like a Pokemon person and go
and
find them all, collect them all.
I remember that game.
Yeah, we have it all listed out. We have the designations of the trails. But if you call a ranger and you say, hey, I'm looking for the best experience and I am someone with a lot of small children, where should I go? If I am someone who really is an avid hiker and I want to get the longest distance, well, I'm going to recommend them the 7 mile trail in the Seven Creeks area. But I'm not going to recommend that to everyone.
Now, my next question for you is going to be, how large are these national parks here? Give me the acres. I want to hear it.
Well, Timucuan's 46,000 acres. So we're considered kind of a medium national park. We were created in 1988, so we're a millennial. We're a relatively young national park. I say young, millennial might not be young anymore. But we are, compared to the others, kind of a younger park. So when we're created, it wasn't, hey, we're going to draw a square in this state and we're going to declare all of that a national park. So we're kind of this windy, loopy, we've got little tendrils going on in a lot of different directions. And so there's park properties at a lot of different sites within those 46,000 acres. And some of it's open to the public and some of it's for the animals. It's for the birds, quite literally. When you're driving down 95, at one point you'll look to the left and look to the right and you'll see all that forest and you'll know this is going to be the pretty part of the drive forever because it's the national park. But you can't drive off of 95 and get to it because there's no exit.
Right. Because I was back by Kingsley Plantation recently. So there's little pockets back there of hiking. Like, where do people park, for instance, if they want to go check out those trails and stuff? There's little parking lots there?
There's little parking lots at one of the trailheads on Fort George Island. That's where I would recommend if you're going out to Point Isabel, and it's just a pull off of Fort George Road. But the Ribeau Club is the main hub where you can park, has more parking spots.
Are you allowed to park there? That's what I was confused about because it's the Ribeau Club.
So that trail, the multi-use trail, is part of Fort George Cultural State Park.
Okay.
And the Ribeau Club is the main visitor center for that.
Okay,
yep.
Good to
so
know.
It looks like a private group and people love to do weddings out there and sometimes just have a fancy event or two.
And the peacocks running around.
And the peacocks running around. Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. But you are free to park there and enjoy the site. And you can park across the street. They have a lot there.
Okay, good.
When on Mondays and Tuesdays, the Ribeau Club is closed. You can still hike the trails. Those are still
because
open.
you park there and you're not really that far from these other cutoff trails that I'm talking about.
No, and if you're on our app, there's actually a driving tour called the Satariwa Trail, which is named for one of the indigenous groups that spoke the Timucuan language. So the Satariwa Trail, you can download the app, and as you're driving that loop, it'll give you the history. So if you're going out there on off-park hours, if you wanted to make a nighttime loop to see if any of the fireflies are out, or if you want to get out there early in the morning to beat the heat, you can also take a nice leisurely drive, listen to that tour, get some of the history.
That's good to know. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So you can learn more about the history because there is a lot of history at these national parks.
Oh yeah, the history and the ecology, there's all sorts of stories on that
I keep
tour.
finding like slabs of information, like they're placed around the park beautifully. So if you want to even speed up the process of learning about the parks, what you just mentioned is a good way. As you're driving, it's like an audio tour.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome.
I mean, I recommend having a buddy with you who can do the controls.
Right, exactly. Don't drive and
safely. Do it safely.
Right.
But yeah, it's a fun adventure. If you're looking for a cheap date, go out. So
Right.
there's lots of different ways to visit the park and to explore. If you're looking for something a little bit more educational, a little bit more solemn, go out to Kingsley Plantation, learn that history. On
Right.
days like Juneteenth that we just celebrated, it's a really amazing place to stop and reflect on our history. But we've got all sorts of different types of visits.
Right.
If you need to beat the heat and get out to a beach, so the north end of Big Talbot is both a state park, but if it's within the bounds of the Timucuan Preserve, so it has some federal protections as well. And that is one of the best hikes. If you're going to walk along Boneyard Beach, is what it's sometimes called. Black Rock Beach is its real name.
Beautiful. We love Black Rock Beach.
Real name, but that's within the bounds of the Timucuan Preserve, so it has that federal protection. It is a state park, but it's going to be around for a long time. If you want to balance those, you want to learn the history and visit a beach, American Beach is the place to go, and that's just across the bridge up on.
I have not been to American Beach or heard of it.
Yeah.
What is American Beach?
So American Beach was a beach on the south end of Amelia Island for African Americans during the segregation era. So there were these yellow ropes that went out into the water, and it was illegal for a black person to swim within 300 yards of a white person.
It's horrible.
It's crazy to think of.
Yeah, this is our history.
But American Beach it's a sad time in our history, but for those African American families, it was a beach for them.
Yeah.
And it was a place filled with vacation memories and adventure and beauty contests and drag races and music spots and burger joints and a lot of joy and memory and happiness happened in that kind of dark time period.
Yeah.
And there preserved is the Nana Dune. We've got some panels there that talk about the history, but there's public beach access at the Burney Park area. You can walk down. It's a great spot for fishing and collecting shark teeth. That's a popular pastime. But it's a really dynamic area that has great history, along with some beautiful ecology in the form of those dunes.
So even more things to learn about here. Say, when's your next big scale event coming up?
Our next big scale event is probably going to be the KHC, or Kingsley Heritage Celebration.
Okay.
So every year in February during Black History Month, we have this big event to honor the cultural history of the plantation period. And we have descendants come, scholars, musicians. We do all sorts of different things.
Wow, and people can find out about this, like you said, online on the website, right?
It's going to be on all of our socials, and it's going to be on our website. That's the big one. But it's an annual one. You can count on it. So some things that we do, they always come around again, and you're like, oh, it's about that time.
So once people come to one, they can experience it again. So these annual events you have.
It'll be a little bit different. We bring in different acts, we bring in different speakers, different things like that.
That's so awesome. And that's awesome.
That's been happening for, more than 16 years, because it was definitely happening when I got here.
How old were you when you started here?
I was a volunteer, so I was a student at UNF.
Okay.
And I came out to Kingsley Plantation to hear one of my professors give a talk. She offered extra credit. So I kept going.
Yeah.
And then I talked to them about becoming a volunteer, and that led to my eventual job. Yeah.
So actually, that's a good question then. How do people volunteer here? Do you have a volunteer program at the park?
We do. Yeah. The national parks couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. The VIP program, or Volunteers in Parks, is national, really. Like, you can go to volunteer.gov, and you can see whenever there's a job listing. If you're in the park, go up to our front desk and ask the ranger there for a contact. They'll give you the person to talk to, or the volunteer section of our website. But if you've ever wanted to explore your country, volunteering at national parks is a really great way. There's a lot of parks that have RV spots or live-in options, and you can tour and serve your country in a fun way, but also learn about it and visit some of the most beautiful places or most fascinating histories.
So tell me now, what are some of the craziest interactions you've had at the park? How can somebody be a good visitor?
Well, I've had some bad visitors. I've had some strange ones. I've driven in on nude photo shoots and people wearing bikinis at a cabin and an enslaved site.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so some things that, we prefer people not do, but it's really easy to be a great National Park Service visitor. Really, we live by the Leave No Trace guidelines. So whatever you're bringing into the park, make sure you take it out. If you're bringing in a dog and the dog leaves something behind, we want you to take that out too. We pack it in, we pack it out. want to encourage people to have good trail etiquette. You know,
Right.
like you may really love your music, but that doesn't mean everyone loves your
Right.
music. So headphones on a trail is
And honestly, the
pretty
whole
good
point
idea.
of coming out here too is to hear this, what we're hearing right now.
Exactly.
The birds, everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, just being that considerate not only of your fellow hikers, but also of the creatures that live out here, right? We may think that things are decomposable,
Right.
but when you throw banana peels and apple cores on the side of the road,
Right.
the next person has to look at and smell those for a little while until they start to break down. But it also is going to disrupt the food supply.
Yeah.
Maybe there starts, you know, an apple tree starts growing somewhere where it's not a native species.
Right.
So we really want to encourage people to leave no trace and take out what they're bringing into the park. And
Right.
really, like everything we've talked about, planning your visit,
Right.
knowing that, hey, this is a great place to bike and this is not a good place to bike.
Mhm.
This is a place that's going to have a ranger station who I can ask a bunch of questions, and this place is not going to have a ranger station, so I need to bring my own water.
Right.
You know, we want them to plan like a park ranger, really line up what they need, go to wherever they're planning to hike, and take a picture of the trail before you head out on
Right,
the trail.
'cause you
We
don't-
want you to have the
Yeah.
best experience, and that means you're going to plan for that amazing
Yes.
experience.
Anything you recommend they bring, like top 3 items you should definitely bring with you on a hike out here? Because I've encountered some animals and things, and I'm just curious what you have to say.
So my top 3,
Yeah.
and different rangers will have
Their own.
different top 3s.
Yeah.
My top 3 are going to be a cell phone,
Okay.
water bottle,
Mm-hmm.
and bug spray.
Okay.
Okay. So at different seasons, you may or may not need as much bug spray. I'm wearing a flat hat, so I've already got my built-in sun protection. That's another thing to worry about. But water is really going to keep you having a good experience and alive,
Right.
you know, which is the number 1 priority.
Exactly.
But what the cell phone does for you is you can take a photo of the trailhead. You have your contact numbers in case you do get into an emergency
Right.
situation. And you have the ability to take pictures, because
Right.
we want you to take memories from this
Exactly.
park. We don't want you to take plants or
Right.
animals,
Yeah.
but we do want you to take those pictures and
Share
have
them.
have that ability to share them and have that experience and that connection to the site. It's gonna save you in a few different ways if you have a well-charged cell phone.
Yeah. I was just going to say my recent experience I think I was at Cedar Point. We didn't have very good service there. So that's something that I will mention. Like sometimes you might not actually get good service. So my suggestion too is to download the maps before you get there on Google Maps.
Yeah. Well,
Because then you can see the trail and still know where you are.
the National Park Service app is built in a way where you can download any given park.
Okay.
So across the National Park Service,
Yes.
as you can imagine, maybe not the best Wi-Fi at every single site.
Yeah.
But when you're in the visitor center, there's usually public Wi-Fi. So you download the app while you're there,
Okay,
and then you
that's it.
head out onto the trails, and you have all of that information the whole time you're out there.
Right, and it's downloaded to your phone so you don't lose
Exactly.
it. Perfect.
Exactly.
And does it show you the map view too? Like, can you see where you're actually going?
Sometimes.
Okay.
In my park, most of the time.
Yeah.
But we're considered actually an urban park. So
Okay.
some of the I haven't tested it out in the backwoods of
Yeah.
Alaska, so I'm not going to guarantee that.
Yeah. No, but it is a good resource to have, just preparing for anything that can happen out there. What are some animal encounters you've had here that were pretty interesting? Anything fascinating that you've seen here?
Fascinating is a tough one because I'm a park ranger.
Yeah.
I love them all.
Yeah. So everything's going to be fascinating, obviously.
Yeah, we get excited.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's things that are more rare, like
That's what
a
I
right
mean.
whale sighting
Yes,
is a little
okay.
bit more rare and special. Manatee sightings are a little bit more rare, but I get every bit as excited when the dolphin crests as anything else. I really love it when it's cannonball jellyfish season and I see a bunch of them floating out in the water. I think that's cool. But our more commonplace ones are still pretty awesome. I love seeing a green anole. I love seeing the gopher tortoises. They're our best buddies.
I've
They're
seen
around
so
all
many
the
of
time.
them back
So many.
there. Oh,
Yeah,
they're so
and they're
cute.
protected, so we
Yeah.
know that, like, hey, you're happy being here.
Right.
Seeing a lot of them knows that we're winning that battle with their
Right.
population. They're growing. But yeah, when you spot an eagle, it's pretty. A
Pretty
bald
fat,
eagle.
yeah.
It's-
If you
it's
see a bald
pretty
eagle
amazing.
too, that's pretty cool.
But a painted bunting, tiny little beautiful bright. Sometimes I get even more excited when I can identify a female.
Okay.
Because they're a little bit more camouflaged. They're a little bit more like stealthy.
So I'm going to assume you have binoculars when you go out there? Because I feel like that might be something cool to bring as well, because there's so many bird species around that you could find. Yeah.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's the joy of wildlife in the National Park Service. So there's something really fun about going to a zoo and seeing animals. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But when you're in a national park, the moment is magical because it's not guaranteed.
Right, exactly.
There is no way of predicting or knowing what animal you're going to encounter.
Yeah, it's that element of surprise.
Yeah, so every animal encounter has this moment of magic. We just ask that everyone respect.
Right.
Like our big motto in the National Park Service is don't pet the fluffy cows.
Right.
We want to keep you safe. We want to keep them safe. So if you encounter a snake on a trail, observe it, enjoy it, watch it from a distance. The moment you see it, you can adjust your trail.
Right. Don't poke it.
Might go back. Yeah, we don't need to poke the snakes. We don't need to. Generally speaking, they're more afraid of you than you are of it. So it will pass.
I'm really happy that you're bringing this up, like respecting the animals, making sure that people don't touch them. Because when we encountered the little gopher holes, I can see somebody wanting to go in there and potentially like pull them out, or like, you shouldn't take pictures of turtles, right? Like with flash, that's a big rule. Yeah,
we just don't want we don't want to disturb whatever they're doing naturally. So you can take video, you can stay far away, you can observe it. You don't want to reach your arm into a gopher tortoise burrow because they're commensals. They're animals, we call them a keystone species. So they're an animal that supports other animals just by the fact they're digging those burrows. Other creatures live in there, including snakes.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Oh yeah, snakes, burrowing owls, maybe a lot of crickets. You don't want to stick your arm down a hole where you don't know who's living there.
You don't know what you're going to find.
In general, that's not a great idea. And we don't want to move wildlife around. So, even if you think you're rescuing the gopher tortoise that you saw on the side of the road, that gopher tortoise's burrow might be 2 feet away on that side of the road.
Right.
And there may be eggs in it. Like, you don't want to disturb it. I mean, you might want to move it off of a road, do a good deed, but in general, we let the animals have the right of way.
Right.
We don't touch them. We let them get where they're going, and we say hands off.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is protecting a whole system here.
Right, an ecosystem of animals.
Yeah. So even if, maybe there's an injured animal and you want to help it, if it's in a national park, we leave it be because sadly that's part of the cycle.
Right.
And there are scavengers in this park and they're going to lose their cycle of life and death if you
mess with their environment. Yeah, exactly. That's really good tips. And look, a butterfly. Yep. Look, guys, see, we're getting distracted.
I told you I'd get distracted.
This is so beautiful. This is like,
we're going to be out here and I'm going to go, oh, bird.
One of the things I really want to ask you is, where do people start, right? If you've never been to our national parks, or if you're not really that outdoorsy, and after hearing our conversation today, you're like, you know what, I really want to check out the national parks here now after hearing this interview. What part of Jacksonville, or which visitor center should they start at? Here at, you think, Fort Caroline?
So Fort Caroline National Memorial was created first. It was created in the 1950s.
Okay.
And so it serves as the main visitor center for all of Timucuan.
Okay.
It's going to be a great spot to tour the museum, talk to a ranger, really get a grip on how big is the park, where to go, what to do. And the nice part is, we're considered an urban park. Here we're in the Fort Caroline neighborhood. We're pretty close to Jacksonville. You can get to us pretty readily. And then the rest of the park kind of opens up from there.
Okay.
So if you're nervous about going on a hike, then you want to go on a ranger-led hike, right? And you want to wait for maybe those fall hikes that are going to be...
And you offer those for free?
Yeah, everything's for free. Yeah.
That's so good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we are here to be of service. That's National Park Service. So we try and provide access to everyone as readily and easily as we can.
Right.
And again, being that urban rural interface, we are going to be able to have a lot of people locally here and have it be a little bit easier to get to Fort Caroline and then learn about the other pockets from there.
Yeah. So as the cost of living is going up too, right? And people are trying to find inexpensive activities and things to do around Jacksonville that won't cost a lot of money, especially if you have kids. This is really the answer, in my opinion.
Some free family-friendly activities, cheap date night, things to do with friends, host a meetup, host young professionals hike, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots and lots of different opportunities in our parks to really get out there, enjoy them, be good stewards,
Right.
and save some money.
So with the group hiking, if you were trying to plan a group outing here, I can also come talk to you about this, and you can arrange maybe, do you do custom tours too? If it was like a really large group? How'd that work out?
Sometimes we'll do group tours as part of our education program, or if we have special conferences come into Jacksonville. Largely, we like people to join in on our public programming whenever that's available. But we have education tours that we do for our schools, our homeschool groups, our private schools, any sort of educational group. We've done that with our Road Scholars before, but we really have worked with lots and lots of different people as far as booking those programs. But there's a lot of different opportunities, even if you can't get a big group tour together, to come out and enjoy the site in smaller numbers. So we get generally speaking, we call them the tour bus crowd. We get the tour bus crowd a lot at Kingsley Plantation because Jacksonville has a really rich African-American cultural corridor of lots of different sites. They're really important to telling those stories. And so we'll get a lot of bus tours that go through and they visit the Ritz Theater and then they visit Kingsley and then they go up to American Beach or a lot of different routes. And so we'll get tour buses that come through, and we hope to serve all sorts of different groups' needs. So
I noticed the bus stop numbers, I think, on Fort George.
That's the driving tour.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Satiriwa Trail.
Makes sense now. Okay, because I see little numbered. So you have that all set up. So literally you'll plug that number in and
it'll pop up, and then you drive to the next one, and that one pops up and it tells you the story as you're driving along.
Now it makes sense why there's little numbers on those little plaques.
They're there for a reason. If we put up a sign, it's likely because of a reason. So if you ever go to a national park and you see a weird sign that says, no balancing on one foot on this cliff, it's because someone balanced on one foot on that cliff and something bad happened. So
awesome. Be observant.
Every sign is for a reason.
Emily, I'm so happy that you took the time to explain all this to me and just share it with everybody, how they can enjoy the national parks here in Jacksonville. You are awesome. And if you guys want to learn more about these national parks, don't hesitate to go to the visitor center. Emily, unfortunately, doesn't live local anymore, but she said that there's plenty of rangers here that you can ask for that'll definitely give you the information you need to plan a wonderful time here in the national parks. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, like, subscribe, follow us for more tips.